In this video, we're going to go over how to create a Kanban board and configure a Kanban board, as well as how to create a Scrum board and configure a Scrum board. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to navigate to the project that we want to create a board on. Now on the left-hand side, your dropdown may be in a different order because this is customizable. If you hit that ellipses icon that says more, you can customize your sidebar and you can put these in whatever order that you see fit. But wherever your project's dropdown is, that's where you're going to go. You're going to hit your project's dropdown and you are going to navigate to the project that you want to create a board in. For my example, I'm going to be creating two different boards under the NPD demo project. You can see I already have a Scrum board and a Kanban board created. You can create multiple boards under any project, and so for this video, we are going to recreate a Kanban board and recreate a Scrum board. Just to give you an idea, first I'm going to go to this timeline here for this project and just show you what tasks we have available for it. So you can see I have two different epics in this project. I have a prototype A and a prototype B. If you expand on that, you can see all of the different tasks that fall underneath this prototype A and the timeline associated with it. And you can see all of the tasks that fall underneath this prototype B. We want these tasks to populate on our Scrum board and our Kanban board. And so let's go ahead and create a couple of boards here. The first thing that we're going to do is we are going to create a Scrum board. So if you hit the plus icon on your Jira projects in that dropdown, it gives you the option to create a Scrum board or a Kanban board. We're going to select Scrum and we're going to name it NPD Scrum 2.0. And here's how you can choose what information is included in your Scrum board. So if you wanted to do it by team, if you wanted to show all certain issue types, if you wanted to go by a label that you're filtering by, or if you wanted to advance by your own specific filter, you can. I just want to pull all of the issues in this project. And so I'm going to select all issues from your project and I'm going to hit create. And you can see I get a notification that the board was created successfully. And now I'm automatically spit out on this backlog. So you can see this is highlighted here, and I am on this backlog. As you can see, it's pulling in some of the other sprints that I have already existing in this project. I'm going to create an additional sprint, and this is what your sprint backlog looks like. So if you were to go and create a new board without anything else here, what you would do is you would come, and this would be blank, all of your issues would be on the backlog, like this create preliminary BOM, and you would hit create sprint. Once you create a sprint, you can click and you can drag any of these issues to and from whatever sprint you're looking for. The other thing to keep in mind here is this is kind of difficult to see whether or not things fall under prototype A or prototype B according to my timeline. If you hit this epic drop down here, you'll see something that says show epic panel, or press E to open and close issues, or to open and close this epic panel. And so I'm going to hit E. And as you can see, this epic panel pops up on the left-hand side. I think this epic panel is incredibly helpful because as you start to get more epics and more things going on with your project, this can get pretty difficult to just see and narrow down exactly what you're looking for. So let's say I wanted to only look at things that were associated with prototype B. I could come and select prototype B over here, and you can see all of those tasks just disappeared. And the only thing that you can see on the screen now are those associated with prototype B. So that's something to know about when you create a Scrum board that you will be populated on the backlog, that you can go and hit that epic panel drop down, or you can use the shortcut that it specifies here. The other thing that's important is going to your active sprint and configuring your sprint board. So if we go over and select active sprints, you can see that I only have a to-do, an in progress, and a done status on this board. But if you click into one of my tasks, I have more statuses in my workflow than just these three statuses. And so here you can see I have a to-do, in progress, on hold, cancel, and done status. If I open up my workflow, you can see that I have more statuses there, but they're not appearing on this board. All I have is to do, in progress, and done. And that's because whenever you create a new board in Jira, it automatically defaults to only include these 3 statuses in these 3 columns. And so what you need to do is you need to actually configure your board. The way that you'll configure your board is you'll hit the ellipses icon in the top left-hand corner next to the board name, and you're going to go to Board Settings. When you go to Board Settings, you'll be put out on the Details page. This is where you can rename your board, or you can add administrators, so anyone that you want to be able to configure the board like you are in this view, you can add them here. And this is where you can change the filter for your boards as well. What we're going to do is we are actually going to go to Layout. And first you're going to select Columns. This is where you can add additional columns to accommodate all of the statuses in your workflow. So here you can see that the on hold status is in the to do column and the cancel status is in the done column. And that's not really what we're going for. So instead, you're going to hit this plus icon here, and you're going to create a cancel column for the cancel status. And you're going to click, hold, and drag your cancel status over to the cancel column. And then you can click, drag, and rearrange your columns in whatever order you see fit. The other thing that we're going to do is I'm going to create an on-hold column because I have an on-hold status. And I'm going to click and drag and rearrange my columns so that they read from to do, in progress, on hold, cancel, and done. I'm also going to click and drag and hold and move my on-hold status to my on-hold column. And now you can see that I have all of my columns mapped here. And all of my statuses are mapped to just one column, which is wonderful. That's absolutely what I recommend. Next, we're going to go under Layout and go to Swim Lanes. Here you can see that swim lanes, I want my work to be broken down by epics. And so I'm going to hit the Select Method drop down, and I'm going to select epics as my swim lanes. Now what you can do is you can also determine your card layout. And so you can add up to 3 fields. So for example, you can see up to 3 fields on your backlog, like original estimate. And you can hit save, and you can see priority. And let's add due date. So you can choose to see these 3 fields on your backlog view. You can also choose to see up to 3 fields on your active sprint. So let's do the same thing. Let's do original estimate. Let's do priority. And let's add due date. Okay, you now have this configured. Now, before we toggle away from here, let's go over under Board Settings and let's look at Estimation. Under Estimation, this is currently selected as story points. You should choose whichever one works best for your team and for your company and business. Some teams use story points, some teams use original time estimates. This would be in like hours or minutes for your estimation, whereas story points is relative level of effort. Time tracking, however, is always toggled off. I like to enable time tracking if you are using the original time estimate, and that's because it tracks the actual time that you spent on something against and compares it against the original time estimate. So it'll tell you, oh, I've used 5 of the 10 hours I was estimating for this, and I have 5 left. So it's just a nice visual if you are using that original time estimate field. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to come over to the timeline portion. You're going to make sure that timeline is enabled, and you're going to include all child level issues. The other thing that's really important here is this. Right now, it's scheduled by sprint dates. That is the default anytime you create a Scrum board because you are using sprints. I personally do not like having my timeline dictated by sprint dates. So instead, I recommend toggling the schedule by start and due dates so that you as a project manager can set your start dates and your due dates for your different milestones on your timeline within your Jira projects. All right, these are the important aspects of configuring your board. And so now that we've configured those, we're going to go back to the board. Now that we're back on the board, you can see that we have our to-do, in progress, on hold, cancel, and done statuses. And you can also see that the work is organized by those epic dropdowns, which we selected in the configuration. You will also see that the due dates are now showing on the cards here. So you see April 5th, 2025 is the due date for this. Priority is medium. You can see the assignee, and you can see the priority here as well as here. And so this is how you can alter the configuration that you have for your card layouts. If we go back to the backlog, you will see that you can also see the due dates for your tasks in the backlog now, as well as the original time estimate, as well as the priority. And so these are ways that you can configure your backlog view, your board view, as well as your timeline. So again, whether you're on the backlog or active sprint view, you can hit this ellipses icon next to your board name and go to board settings to access that information. And so this is how you set up, create, and configure a Scrum board. You set up and configure and create a Kanban board very similarly, though there is one key difference. So let's go ahead and walk through what that looks like. To create a Kanban board under your project, again, you're just going to navigate to your project. You're going to hit that plus icon, and you're going to select Kanban. From there, you're going to have absolutely everything populated on your backlog, and it likely won't be grouped or organized in the way that you want it. It might just be scattered. The way that you're going to configure it, right, you're still only going to see the due, in progress, and done columns. So you will need to configure your Kanban board the same way we went through and configured that Scrum board. So again, you're just going to hit that ellipses icon. You're going to go to board settings. And so what you're going to do is under this details tab, this is where you can change the board name, you can add administrators, or you can change what information filters under here. Again, when you go to layout, this is where you can control the columns, your swim lanes to have them grouped by epics, as well as your card layouts. Once you have your Kanban board configured with all of your columns the way that you would like them to be configured and in the order you would like them to display in, what you're going to do is you're going to go back to your board. Then you will be on your Kanban board, and you should be able to find all of your issues here for your project. The big key difference between the Scrum board and the Kanban board, again, is that you don't have that backlog view. And that's because under a Kanban board, the Kanban board itself acts as your backlog. So you are pulling everything in your project's backlog on the Kanban board, and you will have it viewed here. Rather than as a sprint and a Scrum board, you are only viewing the things that are in the current active sprint. So it depends on whether or not you have a Kanban board or a Scrum board set up for your team. If you have questions about which one to use for your team, go ahead and view my other video on Kanban versus Scrum. Which one should you use? And that should help you answer your question. Once you have your board set up, again, whether that's a Kanban board or a Scrum board, just get yourself familiar with it, learn how to use the tool, and reach out if you have any questions.